The tenant. Does the tenant control the property? They do, don't they? Who lives in the house? Who pays the rent? The tenant. So the tenant controls the property, but who owns the house? The landlord. What does a share lord do? We purchase a parcel of shares on the US stock market and we rent them out. To who? Tenants. Option traders. How many of you did the share renting with Jamie yesterday in the exercise? All of you? Hands up so I can see. Fantastic. How did you find that experience? Did you earn some income? Absolutely. So folks, we purchase a parcel of shares. How many shares do we purchase on the Australian market? How many do we purchase on the US market? 100. Well done. So we purchase a parcel of shares on the US market and we rent our shares out to tenants who are speculators, trading a specific side of the market. Who are our tenants, folks? Option traders, speculators. If you want to trade options, calls and puts, guess what you are? Not only that, but you're my tenant. So this is why I love when I travel around the world and there's all these different speakers talking about the stock market. Guess what they're teaching you? To be my tenant. Bring it on. I need more tenants. I love it. So for us share lord students, bring it on. The tenant has the right but not the obligation to purchase our shares at an agreed price. Folks, what's that agreed price called? Strike price. Can you all say strike price? Strike price. So we agree to rent our shares at a strike price, don't we? Now what happens is this. If we agree to rent our shares at a strike price, does the tenant automatically take our shares once the stock gets to that strike price? No. If I go out and buy some shares on the US market at $20, and let's say I agree to rent it at $22.50, which one is my strike price, folks? $22.50. Now, if the tenant pays me up front $1.20 in income, in rental, what is my break even, folks? How much have I bought the shares for? I've gone into the market, folks, and bought shares at a wholesale price compared to the uneducated who go in and buy at retail. How many of you would like to go into the market this week and buy shares at a wholesale price compared to the uneducated who buy at retail? Now, folks, do I have an income up front banked into my account? Yes. Do I also have a buffer of $1.20? Yes. So if this stock during the month drops down to $19, am I still ahead? Yes. Have I earned an income? Yes. Absolutely. At the end of the month, the shares go to $22.50 flat. What happens? I get exercised. If the stock at the end of the month goes to the strike price or above, the tenant takes my shares, and this happens automatically. The broker does it for you. You don't have to do anything. The broker will take your shares and hand them to the tenant, bless you, converting your shares into, starts with C and ends with Ash. Anyone? Good. And we get all our cash back. Now, if we get our cash back of $22.50, what have we earned? Rent, haven't we? What else do we generate? Capital gain. How many of you would like to earn an income up front, but also have the potential to earn some capital gain? That's double dipping, folks. Isn't that brilliant? Now, what happens if the shares don't go to $22.50 and they close at $22? We don't get exercise. So what do we do on Monday? Rent them out again, don't we? Now, very simple and easy, isn't it? What happens at the end of the month? Well, during the month, what I want to clear out is this. During the month, if my $20 shares go to $25, because they're above the strike price, it doesn't mean the tenant automatically takes them. The tenant has the choice, has the right, but not the obligation to take your shares during the month. They have a choice. However, at the end of the month, on expiry, if your shares are above $22.50, they have to take them. Does that make sense? But during the month, if the shares go above, they don't have to. They have the choice. Because what happens is this, folks. I go into the market and I create the market and the tenant pays me up front. Have I earned an income? Yes. That tenant who's now controlling my shares and owns my contract, can they on-sell that contract? Yes. Can they on-sell it for a profit or a loss? Yes. The option trader will on-sell that contract for a profit or a loss, won't they? So irrespective of whether they make money or not, have I been paid? Yes. Have I earned an income on my investment? Yes. Now, the contracts that we create can be transacted in the US over 1 million times in 1 month. Do I care who's holding my contracts? No. At the end of the month, let's say my shares that I bought have now closed at $18. This is where is this below or above my break even? Ooh. Can I get you all to say ooh? Have I got a loss here, folks? Have I got a loss, folks? No. What do I do on Monday? Have I earned an income? Am I going to earn another income the next month? Do I care where the value of the share is? Because the share is at $18 today, does it mean it's going to be $18 tomorrow? Do I care where the value is? Is the stock market fluctuating every day? The property market doesn't fluctuate as much, but the stock market does, doesn't it? So irrespective of where your capital is, look at the people in Australia. BHP at 53, it's now 41. Are they going, ooh, I've got a loss? No, they just go, I'll just leave it there and eventually it'll go back up, right? And that's what happens in the markets. But irrespective of where your share is, whether it's here, here, here or here, how would you like to earn an income every month consistently into your account? And what can you do with that income? Can you pay off a home loan, a credit card debt? Could you live off it? Could you reinvest it? Just don't say shopping. So folks, that's basically what we do. We purchase a parcel of shares, back to the screen, we rent our shares out. We'll rent our shares out to tenants. We receive this rental premium into our account the next trading day. There is no other strategy, folks, that pays you up front for the action that you put in. We rent our shares on a monthly basis, allowing us to generate massive cash flow every month. How many months per year in the Gold Coast? Not a trick question. How many months per year in the Gold Coast? Good. So in summary, we buy a parcel of shares in lots of 100. We rent our shares out to tenants. There are millions of them. If the stock stays below the agreed price, we keep the shares on the rental premium and we do the same thing over again on the Monday. If the shares go above the agreed price, which is called a strike price, we hand our shares over to the tenant, we keep the rent, we earn the capital that we've taken from the shares and the strike price, and we hand our shares over to the tenant. In essence, the strategy is very simple and very low risk. How many of you would like to be able to do that and generate cash flow every month, irrespective of market direction? So the holy grail of ShareLord is this, folks. We create the market generating upfront rental premiums with 100% certainty. We purchase stocks at a wholesale price against the uneducated who purchase at retail. A financial blueprint where we provide you with the education to find the best stocks to invest to help you generate massive cash flow. With consistent returns of. How many of you would like to know what we generate every month consistently? Hands up. I'll show you later. Between 3 to 9%. How many of you would like to be generating between 3 to 9% every month? Irrespective of market direction, with an average of 30 to 60 minutes a month. That's what you've got to put down. Jason, can I just ask you a question? For this month, what have you generated? 7.8. 7.8. How much time did you put into it? 2 minutes. 7.8 up front for 2 minutes, folks. How many of you would like to do that? Is Steve in the room? Steve, what did you generate? 6%. For how long? How long did it take you to do that trade?
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Folks, I encourage you to speak to my students because that's what's important to me. To see the actual results and speak to the students who are trading live with real results. Now let's keep going. The fastest, most safest, lucrative cash flow strategy to pay off your home mortgage. How many of you, hands up, have a home loan right now? How many of you would like to learn how to pay that off quicker? Now, Barbara and Richard, two of my students. I show this strategy because they're very close to me. Barbara and Richard had $190,000 owing on a home loan. They took out a line of credit. Now, folks, can a line of credit be a tax deduction? Yes. Is it a cost of doing business? Yes. They took out a line of credit of $40,000. How much do they owe on the home loan right now? Well, this was last year, but let's just say $230,000. The line of credit at the time had an interest rate of 9.7%. Is that per month or per annum? Per annum. Can the interest be a tax deduction? Yes. The whole home loan that they were paying in total in interest was $1,280 something, $1,287, but I'm going to say $1,300 per month was the interest on the whole loan. On $40,000, folks, with an average of 5%, with ShareLord, averaging 5%. What's the return on $40,000? 5% on $40,000 is $2,000. How much is the interest on the home loan, on the whole loan? What are they earning? On the line of credit, what are they left with? It starts with P and ends with Rofford. Anyone? What can they do with that? I heard that S word. Now, I'm not saying, folks, you need $40,000 right now. This is just an example. We can get into the market utilising this strategy with as little as $3,000, $4,000. The return of 5% is a 5% return, whether you put $3,000, $30,000 or $300,000. But if I said to you, with $3,000, let's get into the market, get your feet wet and learn this strategy, build a solid foundation where you can take this wherever you want, how many of you would be interested? Without having to speculate on the markets. That's the key thing, folks. Now, can Richard and Barbara pay off their home loan and have some extra money left aside? Now, if you had $10,000 and we earned a 5% return, that's $500 a month. Now, we've got to take brokerage, and I'm going to show you some examples shortly with brokerage as well. But let's just say $500 a month. Can that help you pay off your home loan, folks? Or pay off a credit card or a bad debt? Or could we reinvest that? Absolutely. So we have choice, folks, and that's what it's about. So when it comes to this strategy, I don't want to rely on anybody else but myself. I don't want to rely on fund managers. I don't want to rely on brokers. I don't want to rely on computer systems. I want to rely on myself. How many of you would like to be in that position? And that's what we do, folks, and I'll cover that shortly. There's 2,500 stocks that we choose from. See, would you prefer to have choice to find shares and stocks that you can rent and have a choice to find? Or would you prefer to be limited with only a few? What's the better choice, folks? Choice? Absolutely. 100 shares equals one contract. These are monthly contracts. See, the US market is the prime driver of all global markets, with returns of 3 to 9% every month. Now, I'm going to talk about leverage and margin. How many of you have heard the term leverage or margin? We all have our opinions, folks, but I'm just going to tell you what my opinion is. I personally do not allow my students to use margin or leverage. Why? Because of the risk. See, a lot of people will say, put in 10,000 and let's leverage it off and get 100,000. But how many of you have heard of a term called margin call? I've seen students get margin calls and not have funds to be able to cover the margin call. And what do you think happens, folks? You lose everything. It's important when you look at margin that you understand the upside and the downside and margin. I've taken this extract from the ASX website, and all I ask is for you to look at it. It says, not all securities can be bought on margin. Buying on margin is a double-edged sword that can translate into bigger gains or bigger losses. In volatile markets, are we in volatile markets right now? In volatile markets, investors who borrow from their brokers may need to provide additional cash if the price of the stock drops too much or rallies too much. Now, this is what I want you to understand. Brokers are allowed to liquidate a position even without informing the investor. So what's important to understand is this, folks. A broker can close your position if something changes in the market, whether you like it or not. How many of you would like to be in a position without even watching it and know the broker's going to close your position without you knowing it or not? I do not allow my students for the first 6 to 12 months to use margin. That's just me personally. Because if my students have $5,000, we only invest with that. You got $3,000, we only invest with that. You got 30, we only invest with that. I'm not going to say put in 30 and I'm going to give you another 30 and let's make the figures look bigger and better than what they are. You put $30,000, 3%, 5%, that's what you're going to earn. I'm transparent and open with you. It says here, real-time position monitoring is a crucial tool when buying on margin, which means you must be watching your positions live when the markets are on to be prepared and understand what's going on. Now let's look at the Australian market compared to the US. You need 1,000 shares to one contract. 75 stocks that are optionable, that are rentable. Does that make sense? There's 75 stocks. Realistically, there's only about 7 stocks worth renting on the Australian market. Typical returns on the Australian market are between 1% to 2%. Low liquidity, stock prices range from $22 to $60. Now, if I'm looking at a $22 stock on the Australian market, what's my minimum investment? $22,000 is your minimum. I mean, how many of you are sitting on $22,000 right now and would go and put into the market without even understanding the strategy? But if we can put $2,000 or $3,000 into it, is that a better starting point? Yes. A $30 stock would require a minimum of $30,000 on the Australian market. Average rental period is 10 months per year. You can't always rent your shares on the Australian market. So you cannot always find a tenant. It takes weeks to set up an account, and brokerage is between $40 to $105. On average, brokerage is between $40 to $105. On the US market, we need 100 shares to one contract. Is that a better entry point for us, folks? Same time and effort, different markets. 2,500 stocks to choose from. Is that better choice for us? A $30 stock requires a $3,000 investment. I mean, how many of you would like to get into the market with as little as $2,000, $3,000 and start learning how to generate cash flow? If you can start seeing the returns coming in with as little as $3,000, would that give you the confidence to get in with a little bit more money? Absolutely. Rent 12 times a year. Always find a tenant. It takes 15 minutes to set up an account. Has anyone here set up an account in the Australian market? Hands up. How long does it take? Weeks. Forever. How many of you would like to open an account in 15 minutes and start learning this strategy? That's what it's about. Brokerage for us, this is the full brokerage, it's $14.95 with returns of 3 to 9% per month. And that's the reason why we don't do the Australian market. Now, let's look at some stocks on the Australian market. How many of you have heard of Oil Search and BHP? Yes? Is it okay if I do a comparison between the US and the Australian market? I know you're going to get disappointed, sir, but it's okay. Now, let's look at Oil Search. What price is it right now? Now, folks, this is data straight off the ASX as of today. What price is Oil Search right now? $6.02. If I go out and buy 1,000 shares, because that's the minimum, what am I outlaying? $6,020. Now, at $6 strike price, how much is the tenant paying right now? Go to $6, up the top, what's it paying? 14.5 cents, 0.145. Can you all see that? What's it paying, folks, in rent? Come on, what's it paying? 14.5 cents. So times that 14.5 cents, times that by 1,000 is how much? 145. How much is brokerage on the Australian market? 89. Let's say $80. If brokerage is $80 to buy and $80 to rent, how much is brokerage in total? How much are we earning in rent? Are we ahead or behind? Is it worth doing it? So on the Australian market, a lot of people will tell you need a minimum of $20,000 to do this strategy. Now let's look at BHP. BHP right now, how much is it? What's the last price? 40? 41.40. So if I need to buy a minimum of 1,000 shares, what am I outlaying? $41,400, isn't it? Now at $41.50, are we renting it at $41.50? Is that out of the money or in the money? See, we're buying it at $41.40, and where's BHP? Where are we renting at? $41.50 is above the purchase price, isn't it? So we can also make some 10 cents capital gain, can't we? Now, at $41.50, which is the strike price, how much is the rent right now? 81 cents. Can you all see that? Where is it? Just there? Is that correct? Am I pointing at the wrong spot? No, 81 cents. Is that, you all okay with that? So if I'm outlaying $41,400 and the tenant's paying me 81 cents, times that by 100 is how much, folks? $810. And then we've got to take brokerage out of 160. What are we left with? $650? Has anyone got a calculator? 650 divided by 41 is how much percent return for 2 weeks? It's on the bottom, folks. How much is it? 1.9. No. So, folks, what is the return right now? 1.9%. Let's have a look at 2 trades I found today that meet our criteria on the US market. Now, what is the last price on the top one, folks? Can you see at the top left? 47.44. So at $47.44, what's the minimum that we need to buy in the US market? 100 shares. So 100 times $47 is $4,744. How many of you have $4,744 that would like to get into the market right now and place this trade? Now, how much is the tenant paying me in rent at $47, which is the strike price? $225 as a minimum, between $225 and $245. So if I'm earning $2.25, now what's happening is this, folks. Let me write it out again so you can see this. I'll get you to go to the board here if possible. I'm buying the stock at $47.44 and I'm agreeing to rent it at $47. Am I buying it and giving it to the tenant at a lower price? Who thinks I'm nuts? I'm buying it for $47.44 and I'm going to hand it to him at $47. Anyone think I'm nuts? But how much is the tenant paying me in rent? $2.25. So what's the difference between what I buy it and what the strike price is? 44 cents, isn't it? 44 cents? So $2.25 minus 44 cents is what? Thank you. Now, if I'm going to buy $4,744 worth of shares and I'm going to earn a net return of $181, how much is brokerage on the US market? It's $14.95. In fact, for us, it's $12.95. So $13 and $13 is how much? So we take $26 out of that. What's my net profit, folks? $155. $155 on my $4,700 investment, or $600 on my $41,000 investment. Close to. Now, in fact, I'll keep that there. Let me just show you something here. If I bought 1,000 shares, what would I need to be outlaying? $47,440, won't I? The tenant's paying me, what's my net profit? What is my net profit after I take out the $44? 181. So that's $1,810 on my $47,000 investment. How much was brokerage? 1,810 minus 26. What's my net profit? Doesn't matter. Is brokerage a cost of doing business? How many of you would like to pay $26 brokerage to do this trade? How many of you would like to earn on your $47,000 investment, $1,800 up front, net profit banked into your account for 12 days? Let me ask you a question, folks. How many of you work for $1,800? How hard do you work for $1,800 for 12 days? That's a 2-week trade. That's $900 a week. How hard do you work for $900 a week? How many of you would like to earn that in 5 minutes to place that trade? And who cares what happens in the next 2 weeks? Can we go surfing or play golf? Or maybe some shopping? Now let's look at the next trade, folks. Let's go to the next one. Back to the screen, please. What's the bottom stock? Now, what's the last price on the bottom stock? $12.54. Can you all see that? At $12.54. If I'm buying this stock at $12.54 and my minimum outlay is how many shares? 100. That's $1,254. How many of you would like to start with $1,254? Can I buy these shares and rent them out with $1,254? Absolutely. But let's say we put in $12,540. Is that okay? How much is the tenant paying me in rent right now at $12.50 strike price? 80 cents. That's $800 if I buy 1,000 shares. Is that okay? $800 on my $12,000 investment minus my $26 brokerage. What's my net profit? Would you prefer to earn $800? What is it, $774. How many of you would like to earn $774 on a $12,000 outlay, or $650 on a $41,000 outlay? Earn $650 on a 41 grand outlay on the Australian market, or $774 on a 12 grand outlay. What's a better investment for you, folks? It's a no-brainer, isn't it? How many of you like the US market right now? Oh yeah. Okay, let's keep going. Most US retirement accounts only allow the share renting strategy to be transacted. We all heard of the term self-managed super fund, haven't we? In the US, they call it a 401k. This is the only strategy the US administration allows the Americans to trade their 401k. What does it tell you about the strategy? I'm not even talking about insurance yet. Absolutely. The American government says if you have a 401k or a self-managed super fund, you can't go out and buy shares or do anything with it. If you want to invest on the stock market, the only strategy you can do is the share lord share renting strategy. Now, folks, what you need to understand is this. This strategy has been in existence since 1973. We haven't created this strategy. We've perfected this strategy. We've been in the market with this strategy for over 18 years. I've personally been doing it for 10. This strategy pays consistent returns. I'm amazed at how many people are trying to jump on the bandwagon right now and try to do this strategy. But all I ask you is this. Would you prefer to look at the consistent conservative returns and invest with someone that has the proven practical principles and has the results to prove it? Or would you want to invest with someone that's just come into the market and says, we can do this? What's your choice? You've got to think about that. How many of you would like to see one of our worst trades right now in the year? The good, the bad, and the ugly. That's what it's about. I want you to follow this with me. We start from the top. DV is trading at what price? 55.69. Now, I've got to say something. I believe Jamie must have used this the last time because it's just too high for me. I feel like a shrimp. Now, this stock is at what price, folks? 55.69. What strike price did I rent it at?